Well, hi everybody, and welcome back. We've been doing the history of jewelry trends for each decade from the 50s on, which is when I graduated from high school and college, both in the 50s. And we went through all that in part one of this series. Good morning. It's me, Nanny, from Nanny and the Moose. And I want to start off this second part. This is a little addition to the video that I already made and had ready to go about our jewelry, part two. But I have to give a special intro. I'm filming on the next day, and I have to thank all the people that have subscribed and commented, made the most kind and wonderful comments on our channel. It sort of blew up all because of this wonderful, kind woman whose mantra is really paying it forward, and that is Rockstar Mom Patty. Patty, I love you. I can't tell you what you've done. You sent over all your lovely fans and friends, so loyal. They all said Patty sent me, and they loved us. I think that's wonderful. Thank you again so much, everybody. And Moose and I will try so hard to continue our super aging videos on all the things we're trying to do to keep us relevant and interesting, learning all the time about something. And I just wanted to express our gratitude so much. Thank you, and keep coming back. And go back to Patty, of course, too. I don't do the beauty thing too well. She is a master at that. Our daughter Colleen and her two daughters, Shannon and Ryan, made these cupcakes with the sweet message, "Congrats on 1,001K." Isn't that cute? We hit 1,000 subscribers yesterday, and it was a big milestone for us. And now we're doing part two, which is going to start with the 60s, the year that Bill and I were married, and the year of Jackie O. As you can see, I'm being very correct. I have my pearls on, Jackie Kennedy. Now we did tease our hair up on top to make it full and poofy on top. And we wore very sedate jewelry, mostly pearls. And I will get up close to show you my pearl earrings, pearls, and mostly Jackie wore either a choker or regular pearls. Of course, hers were 100% genuine. A lot of us didn't have that luxury, but it was a time of dressing sedately and like ladies, and we all wanted to look like Jackie O. Now, as you can see, I have taken photographs of my display of all the decades of jewelry. And I hope you're going to enjoy this because we're going to go through every decade, and I have a little bit of everything. I think my mod years, the years of Twiggy and Cyndi Lauper and Madonna, a lot of my wild resin plastic jewelry, geometric shapes might have been whipped off by my three daughters at some point. Most of my daughters were born in the 60s. So it would have been Madonna and Cyndi Lauper. They were 80s, right? So we'll talk about them when we get to the 80s. But the other person that appeared in the late 60s was Twiggy. Now, if you remember, those of you of a certain age, Twiggy was that wonderful thin model from London. and she was on television a lot. And oh, the mini dresses she wore. In fact, we all wore the minis, and that's when tights came in. Tights of all colors, solid blacks and opaque. And we wore them with our skirts, which were 18 inches high. Moose and I and our 4 babies were living in Scotland at the time. So we were a part of all that. It was a change to breaking out and being bold and wanting to look noticed. I was right there with them, had my minis, bought my tights, took our trips to London, wore the fancy jewelry, and I have some parts of that which I will change into my mod look. And we had a ball living in England, living in Scotland, but it was wonderful, and the fashions were fabulous then, and I know you all remember that era. So we'll get into the late 60s and then the 70s in a minute. Bye-bye, Jackie-O. So the 70s, the whole decade, pretty much continued with that big, chunky, look at me look. Everything was long, dangly necklaces, big cocktail rings, fancy jewelry, dangly earrings. Most of them were very long and brightly colored as well. The 70s went on that way. I think we had some toe rings in there. Chokers started to come in. And fashion, along with jewelry fashion, was driven by the young people during those days. And those of us of an older age, by the 70s, I guess I was in my 30s, early 30s, mid 30s, and you sort of had to go along with that. But I was still thin enough and young enough to be wanting to do all that. So I acquired a lot of the what they call costume paste jewelry, and it was fun. It was a fun time to dress. At some point, I believe we even still wore the pearls, but they had to be long and they had to be big. Everything was big. So now we're going to go into the 80s. The 80s continued along with the look of look at me, everything big. At that point, I think we also started with the jelly sandals and a lot of rubber and pliable type jelly bracelets. Puka shells. Oh my gosh, I remember even the guys had to wear puka shell necklaces. Both my sons, the 2 that were born at that time, Mikey came later, I remember them in high school in the late 70s, I believe, and they had to have, Moose was traveling, and that came home from Hawaii with a bunch of puka shells, and I got my puka shell necklaces, and the boys and the girls all had to get them. It was a big teenage thing. So it was beachy, it was beach jewelry, shells. What else did they wear? Oh, scrunchies. Remember those scrunchies for the ponytails? That was in too. So it was a fun time, the 70s and the 80s. And this all continued into the same type of jewelry, basically. By the late 80s, bell bottoms were in the 80s. So this sort of did a bit of driving the jewelry into that hippie, low, no more waist, had to be below the waist, little crop tops. But that was mainly for the younger people. I guess we all sort of started to find ourselves, those of us that were mommies by this time, or working women, and we found our own style, I think, about that time. We maybe started to give up the, still use the scrunchies, but we started to give up some of it. I remember having toe rings and ankle bracelets, little gold ankle bracelets. And of course, during that time too, the little gold chains started to come in, the real ones, and they weren't expensive then, but I remember the ones that you could afford were so thin and lightweight that they used to chink up. And when you would take them out, they were all full of kinks and chinks, and it didn't really wasn't fun to wear those things anymore. So we sort of stuck to their own. I, by that time, had acquired Moose with his traveling to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Arizona, and I began my love of Southwestern jewelry. And have a lot of that. But also during this time in the 80s and also the 70s were the colorful bangles. Cloisonne came in, where it was a metal painted beautiful, the combination of different metals fired together to make a smooth, beautiful. Colleen had a ring. Actually, I had a ring that my husband bought in Scotland for me, among some other things, from the gypsies out in the hills. And Colleen wanted that when she was in high school, and she got that one. It was a fun thing for her. In fact, she wore it long after she was married, and she loved that cloisonne ring, but the flowers, the paint on the flowers began to fade. So I'm kind of looking for another one, or maybe I'll repaint the flowers myself. You need a tiny, tiny brush to do that. But still, jewelry was fun. A lot of people started to wear gold, little gold chains. In fact, we got to talk about the men here. In the 70s, and it was generated by the hip hop period, men started to wear chunky gold necklaces, always 14, 18 karat. And it was generated in Hollywood, mainly the hip hop people. And a lot of people, young men, maybe men in their 30s, men who could afford these necklaces. And by the way, many of them wore the gold plated ones too. But that was a sign of coming into wealth or feeling important, I think, because those gold chains were wonderful. But the women started to wear the gold chain belts. We still had sort of a dropped waist look in the 70s and the 80s, and big chunky gold chain belts were in at that time too. So that was all part of our jewelry then. Oh, jewelry is fun. And a lot of it in my collections, the kids will have. In fact, Colleen, a couple of Colleen's kids were down here this morning looking at my little setup, which took me forever to do. And I did take pictures, so I tried to separate everything out. And little Shannon picked out a ring, a silver ring. She's just starting high school, and unfortunately it's virtual right now. But eventually I think we'll just disperse this among all the kids and the grandkids. I think they'll enjoy a lot of this. And then when it comes time for moi to depart this earth, then my daughters and the older sons, maybe for their wives, will get a chance to dig into maybe the Southwest jewelry, or I have some jewelry, believe it or not, that we bought in Hong Kong in the early 70s, way before the ban on buying and selling ivory. And I feel so guilty, I don't even wear it, but I do have here, if you can see this, this is my collection of ivory. It's not all ivory, a lot of it's bone, but it was in then, and it was really beautiful to wear in the 80s with a black dress. And over here, can you see the hanging ones? I'll try and move the camera to this part right here. Here is some more ivory and bone, and this was fun to wear. Bangles, Also at that time, I did acquire some jade. I love the colors of jade. And I have the jade bangles. Problem with my hands and bangles is my arthritic knuckles have enlarged over the years. And I can't get a lot of my bangles on anymore. But the jade bangles are pretty. And these will probably fit some of the too. I did have a pretty jade ring too. This necklace is a carved piece of jade. Whoops, I hope I don't lose all this in my garden. This is pretty. This is a little carved necklace, jade necklace. A lot of this I should show up close, but at any rate, I think it's a fun thing for you to go back in your jewelry boxes, or if you have some of this put away. I had several big plastic bags of what I labeled miscellaneous, and there's a plane going overhead. And in my miscellaneous jewelry is where I found a lot of my colorful 70s and 80s jewelry. I never did throw much away. I've saved all the old watches that I've had over the year. I must have 25 watches. And one of these days I want to make one of those Christmas tree montages with all the watch faces and put a few fake jewels in there, and have so many things I want to do. Hope I don't run out of time. So, as you see here is, I think we spoke about a lot of it. Somewhere in this pile is another little ivory ring. Now these are tiny. My fingers must have been pretty small at that point because a lot of these rings just don't fit anymore. I even have, and I believe this is ivory, an old, I would call it a barrette or hair clasp. And I think it might have been one of my grandmother's. This looks like it might have been made of ivory or something similar. I guess ivory does discolor over the years. I think that might have been my grandma's. So, let's see, what else here? Here's my pearls. I do have some fun pearls. Also from, I believe, the 80s. Let me see if I can get this out here. This is the trouble of necklaces. When you want to wear them, you have to detangle them. I think when I was Jackie-O in the early part of this video, I did have a pair of pearls, a very sedate pair. I can't wear chokers. I really don't have a neck. I did have somewhat of a neck in my younger years when I was thin, but little by little my neck disappeared on me. When I lose more weight, it'll come back, hopefully. I do have 2 strands of what they call seed pearls. And when we were in Hong Kong, years and years ago in the early 80s, I did buy these for my mom. And these came from her jewelry box when she died. And seed pearls are really pretty. They're very tiny, and lots of times you use them in strands. The one I bought for myself, the jeweler taught me how to twist them. And as you can see, they're quite twisted. But when you buy more strands at one time, you twist them, and it really is a pretty effect. Unfortunately, I didn't get a 14 karat gold clasp. It's a beautiful beetle, and it tarnished over the years. I should have gotten the 14 karat, but you don't realize it. Maybe it's a dragon, might be. But I've worn these a lot, and I love these seed pearls, all roped, or twirled around. And then I have, for my anti-mame personality, when we go to these charity events, one of our daughters is an officer in a hospital, and she runs the big galas, usually in the fall. Unfortunately, they had to cancel it for this year. But every year it's a theme. It's for the hospital, for charity, and we dress up in whatever the theme is. And one year it was the 20s. Oh, that was fun. The headbands and the feathers. And when the photographer was taking the pictures of all the couples, I decided to get on. He had a chaise lounge, one of these Victorian, what do they call it, lounging benches. And everyone was standing in front of that. And I thought, I'm going to do an anti-mame pose. So I'll put that on. And that was fun. Somebody had a big long cigarette holder, and in that I wore like Coco Chanel. Her look was layers of long pearls, and I had those. Of course, mine were drugstore pearls, as they say about makeup. Oh, we forgot to talk about Cyndi Lauper, and Madonna. Here's a look. I always loved this necklace. It was so colorful and pretty, and it's basically made of some wood and beads. And those two ladies, with their wild dressing, did generate the jewelry, and their jewelry was outlandish. Lots of bangles up their arms and wild colors and red hair all spiked out and toe rings and nose rings and dangly earrings, and that was a fun time. It was a little beyond that, so I never went for that, but a lot of our daughters, especially for Halloween parties and other parties, would dress up and look so cute as Cyndi Lauper and Madonna during that age. Remember I told you I had all the jewelry in bags? Well, the rings and some bracelets and some necklaces I have put in one of these cases. I'm going to try and lift it up and show you what it is. I bought it at Big Lots. I have a couple of these now, and I'm going to put it on shelves in my little closet, which is the extra bedroom in our tiny little adobe. We don't have closets in our little adobe, so I have my sewing machine and all my bookcases with all my crafty stuff, and I'm going to put this on the shelves in there. What I wanted to talk about besides the hats was I have another cute hat I just wanted to show you, and then I have a question to ask you about hats. See this little antique hat? Oh, I found it in a thrift shop years and years ago when all our 6 kids were at home, and Bill and I used to dress up on Halloween and set the whole family room up for the kids. They'd be all excited about going out on Halloween night. And I'd get some of the birch tree branches that had lost their leaves for the fall, and I'd put them over the chandelier hanging down, so it was kind of spooky. And I was always Mary Poppins. I would wear this hat, which I'm showing you, and I love this hat, but I can't wear it anywhere. But it's a wonderful little Mary Poppins hat, and I had the black coat. Actually, I think it was an altar boy cassock that I found at a thrift shop. And I wore that with some kind of a dress underneath, and I had the lace-up boots that Mary Poppins wore, and I had the tapestry valise, or it was bigger than a purse. It was sort of a carry-all, and the kids loved it that Bill and I dressed up every Halloween. So this is my Mary Poppins hat, and here is my question, and it all goes back to the days when I was a young girl in high school, college, even younger than that. My mother was a wonderful woman, and I've heard from women that in these comments that people are making that they would go shopping with their mother when they were little for jewelry, and they have wonderful memories of that. Well, I have memories of going shopping for hats with my mom. And in the old days, back in the 40s and 50s, in every town, there were these little millinery shops where they just sold hats. And the hats were displayed on all 4 walls of these little tiny mom and pop type stores. And oh, I couldn't wait to go hat shopping. So Mom and I would go in, whether it was Easter, always had to get new hats for Easter back east. And we would go in these shops looking at the hats, and she would be trying them on. My mother was so pretty with she wore big picture hats. That's where I get this obsession with hats. And we would go in there and she'd be trying them on and I'd be trying them on. It must have been high school at that point. And my mother would say, okay, choose now. And I'd say, oh, Mom, I can't choose. I love this one, I love that one. Well, we would go out of there. And by the way, when you bought a hat or 2 hats or 3 hats, you would always get a hat box that goes with the hat. Not anymore, but in those days, you got a hat box, beautiful hat box. And we would leave that millinery shop with boxes of hats. Such a wonderful memory of shopping with my mother for hats. So this is where I get my obsession for hats from. And I have tons of hats that I've saved for years and years and years. So I have hunting hats with the tweed that we bought in Scotland. I have berets. I have just about every kind of a hat you can think of. Whew, it's getting hot again out here. It's Labor Day, by the way. And Southern California is up in the 105, 110 range. But it's early in the morning, so I'm going to leave here soon. So back to my question. Would you like me to do a video all about my hats and where they came from and how I wore them or still wear them? Just tell me if you think that's something. I think it might be a cute idea. And especially you ladies of my age might enjoy this. Wear your hats. You don't have to wear them just in the garden. Ooh, I just got bitten by an ant. I got to get out of my garden here. You should wear your hats when you go shopping out. My daughters love hats and they look good in hats. This is my summer hairdo, by the way. If it keeps the hair off the back of my neck. And as I said in one of my videos, if I just did a ponytail, I'd look like a skinned rat. So I need some sort of hair in the front here. We all have big heads though, very big heads. In fact, when my oldest daughter, Mary Eileen, we call her Dub or Dubby, and that's a little childhood name. When we would go shopping, she had this beautiful big head, plus a, not too giant, by the way. She's gonna get mad at me for this. We would go shopping when she was 4 or 5 for Easter hats. And all the little girl Easter hats in the stores, the cute little straw hats, never fit her. So we would have to go to the ladies department to get her little straw hat for Easter. And she couldn't figure out why none of the hats fit her. And I used to tell her, don't you worry, don't you worry. All the other little girls have pinheads. You have a nice hat that you can wear, ladies' hats. Well, she believed that for a long, long time, but she does look great in hats. I will show you pictures of some of my daughters one of these days. My whole family too. I love them all. I miss them during this COVID, but okay, I'm rambling. And you let me know if you think I should do a hat video. I do love my hats. So the one thing I brought this out for was because I neglected to show you any of the rings that go with a lot of this jewelry that I showed you in part 1, my Southwestern and my amber, and part 2, all the different types of wild jewelry. So I'm just going to show you a few rings and perhaps a couple of bracelets. Okay, I'm going to put my glasses on. Someone said, you know, I had a cataract operation. This is another comment that I got from one of Patty's lovely ladies. And she said, I had cataract operations on my eyes and they're great. You know, I really see fine. It's just the up close thing that bothers me. But Bill had cataract operations a year ago. It was one of the many surgeries that did not go well because he was on a blood thinner, and it did not go well. So I think I'm going to skip the cataracts and stick with the glasses. Okay, now here's the rings. You did see all my Southwestern jewelry, and I'm just going to try and put these on my fingers here, some of them. I have some coral and silver ones that go with my coral. I forgot to show you my my bear claw black onyx silver jewelry. This is also Southwestern, and I have a necklace in this and a couple of bracelets. It's called bear claw. You can see the claws, and all the stones in the Southwestern jewelry of this particular type is onyx. And that's beautiful. I love that too. Another ring, this is probably my oldest of all the rings. I'm gonna have to turn these around and show you. So these are the Southwestern. See all the different colors of the turquoise greens and deep blues and seafoam greens, light blues, pretty. And then of course the coral, which I love. Okay, and here's another one. This one is big enough to wear on my index finger. I like to wear them on that finger. Okay, the one I wanted to show you, I told you about Bill buying a couple of pieces of jewelry from the gypsies in Scotland. I have a ring, but I don't polish all my jewelry all the time. But I will show you one of the rings that he bought in the late 1960s from the gypsies. And I have a tip for all you jewelry lovers. I don't know what you clean your jewelry with. I do have different kinds of jewelry cleaners, you know, the liquid stuff, which I use on certain things, but certain stones you can't put into that kind. On my rings especially, and I use it on my wedding ring, the toothpaste with a dedicated toothbrush only for this. You put a little bit of toothpaste on here, wet it, and it will shine up your stones or and I'm going to show you how this works on this gypsy ring, if I can find it now. Oh dear. Here it is. It's in this little bag of some of the ones I don't want to get lost. Oh dear. Okay. Love my rings. Okay, here it is. And I was looking for it to try and put it on with this gold jewelry. Oh boy, of course it's connected with another ring at this point. Okay. Can you see this? Isn't this beautiful? Do you see the crown around the whole ring? It goes all the way. I should put my hand up like the ladies do. Isn't that beautiful? It's big, really big. And it's a clear stone. Senior moment, but can't remember now. Nope, it's going again. I didn't get it. But anyway, this ring I love. And I'm going to show you how this shines up. Right now it's a little dull, but see, I can get inside with the toothbrush and shine it up. Let me try it. It's already wet from being inside, but I wish there was some, maybe I'm going to wet it again. I'll be right back. I'm back. Now, what you do is you put a little bit of toothpaste on the brush, and then you're going to put it inside first, and you're going to just scrub. Now, some people say, oh, the tooth bristles will scratch the stones. I've never had that happen, but you always want to get, if you can, the inside of the ring, because that's what will make the sparkles go. Now, on this ring, I have to do the outsides too, because you can see the stone through the gold crown. Wish the sun was shining. No, I don't really. It would be too hot. Okay, now, hopefully, I'll go wash it off. There's some kitty cat water over here I'm using. Don't tell anybody. Be right back. Oh boy, I should take you into the sun to show you the difference in this ring that I just rinsed off in some cat water. And by the way, I did not give that same cat water back to the cat. Isn't that beautiful? I'm going to take this into the sun. We're going to walk with this. Hope I don't drop my tripod. Okay, now we're out in the sun. Can you see the difference? How the gold and the stone? That toothpaste works. Now, I don't know how it is on other things, so don't take my word for it. I'm not a jewelry expert, but this does work. So that's my gypsy ring, one of them. There was another one, a blue aquamarine, I think they called it, also a clear stone. Not quite as big and beautiful as this, but that was another one. And then, of course, ooh, it's getting tight on me. There we go. Isn't that pretty? And it's big. The ring that Colleen has that I gave her, her cloisonne, was also a ring from the caravan in Scotland. So, I think that might be it. The ring that Colleen has that I gave her, her cloisonne, was also a ring from the caravan in Scotland. Now, the big question is, who's in for a hat video? Get out your hats, ladies. So thank you all for coming along with me on my journey through the years with jewelry. I hope you've enjoyed it, and all the stories have to accompany jewelry, right? So I love you all. Thank you so much for subscribing and commenting. And those of you who have not yet seen us, please subscribe and comment. Our journey is all about aging. Moose and I are 83, and we're all about gratitude, forgiveness, learning at any age, and just having lots of fun. We garden, we feed the birds, we do a lot of things. Have some adventures when we can do it, and I think you'd like it. We have a lot to offer. Ladies and gents, believe me, don't underestimate yourself. Thank you again for coming, and please join us in a couple days for part 3 of this jewelry journey. Bye for now. God bless us all.